Mr. X revealed. Until today, we did not know his identity, but he is a Biden whistleblower who has come out saying he was a part of the investigatory team, and he's got the inside scoop on how this whole thing was covered up. His name, revealed in Congress, is Mr. Joseph Ziegler, IRS Special Agent, worked closely with Mr. Gary Shapley on the investigative team that was looking into the Biden crime family. And so he published an opening statement. It is about 10 pages long, and he's going to give us a short explanation in his opening testimony. But here's a little bit more about him. He says, "I come forward at your invitation. I previously came forward below. I already talked about myself as Whistleblower X. 13-year special agent with the IRS, says I've got a duty to bring to the public the things that he is going to share with us today." And so we'll listen to him, Mr. X, Joseph Ziegler, testifying in front of Congress, exposing the Biden crime family.
And members of the committee, today I sit here before you not as a hero or a victim, but as a whistleblower compelled to disclose the truth. That said, in coming forward, I believe I'm risking my career, my reputation, and my casework outside of the investigation we are here to discuss. I ultimately made the decision to come forward after what I believe were multiple attempts at blowing the whistle at the Internal Revenue Service. No one should be above the law, regardless of your political affiliation. I humbly view my role here today as providing the facts as I best understood them, and to let Congress and the administration and the public consider those facts and determine the best path forward. I recognize why I was present at the start of this investigation and was closely involved with the investigation for roughly 5 years. I'm just a part of the story. Others, including my colleague and supervisor Gary Shapley, who is here with me today, have their own views and understandings of what took place during this investigation. I've been an agent with the IRS since 2010. In 2007, I received my undergraduate degree from Ohio University, my MBA from John Carroll University. Prior to starting my career at the IRS, I worked at Ernst & Young as an external auditor. Throughout my career with the IRS, I have worked a variety of successful criminal tax and money laundering investigations. In 2018, I transitioned to being a part of the International Tax and Financial Crimes Group out of the Washington, D.C. field office. I was the lead IRS case agent on the Hunter Biden investigation. I've recently discovered that people are saying that I must be more credible because I'm a Democrat who happens to be married to a man. I'm no more credible than this man sitting next to me due to my sexual orientation or my political beliefs. The truth is, my credibility comes today from my job experience with the IRS and my intimate knowledge of the agency's standard and procedures. I was raised and have always strived to do what is right. Although I do have my supporters, others have said that I am a traitor to the Democratic Party and that I am causing more division in our society.
Wow.
I implore you to...
Wow, for coming out, he's getting attacked. A gay Democrat is being attacked by Democrats for blowing the whistle.
Consider that if you were in my position with the facts as I have stated them, ask yourself if you would be doing the exact same thing. I hope that I am an example to other LGBTQ people out there who are questioning doing the right thing at the potential cost to themselves and others.
Yes, indeed.
We should always do the right thing,
on.
no matter how painful the process might be. I kind of equate this to the experience and feelings I encountered when coming out. It was honestly one of the hardest things I ever had to go through.
Wow.
I contemplated scenarios that would have been highly regrettable, but I did what is right, and I'm sitting here in front of you today. I would first like to take a minute to thank some people for their unfettered help and support. First off, God, for giving me the strength and courage to get through this process. My husband, who has been my rock, has put up with me, my stress, and has had to deal with his personal information being out there.
Shout out to Mr.
My attorney,
Ziegler.
Dean Zerby, who has agreed to represent me through this matter pro bono, and someone who has provided me so much help and guidance.
Shout out.
My colleagues from the Hunter Biden investigation. The work that was done on this case is tremendous, but seems to be overshadowed by what is happening here today. And I just want to say to the investigative team that I am thankful for having worked with you. I also want to thank my family and friends back home in Northeast Ohio and Georgia. I don't live in the D.C. area. I had to fly here and have had to pay out of pocket for all my travel-related expenses in being a whistleblower. On that note, I would like to make another statement that I have not accepted a single payment from anyone for being a whistleblower. First, Mr. Chairman, while I have my written statement as well as my testimony before the Ways and Means Committee, I would like to touch on briefly 7 specific matters. First, in a recent letter to Congress, Mr. Weiss stated that he had been granted ultimate authority over this matter, but then later stated in the same letter that his charging authority is geographically limited and that he would need a President Biden-appointed U.S. attorney to partner with him in charging the case.
Right.
Mr. Weiss stated that he was making all decisions necessary to preserve the integrity of the prosecution consistent with federal law, the principles of federal prosecution, and departmental regulations. In the Criminal Tax Manual, Chapter 10, found on the DOJ website, Tax Division policy states that cases involving individuals who fail to file tax returns or pay a tax, but who also commit acts of evasion or obstruction, should be charged as felonies to avoid inequitable treatment. In early August of 2022, federal prosecutors from the Department of Justice Tax Division drafted a 99-page memorandum. In so, they were recommending for approval felony and misdemeanor charges for the 2017, 18, and 19 tax years.
That didn't happen, though.
That did not happen here, and I am not sure why.
Well, we know why, because it's the Biden people who are in charge of all of this. He's got a lot of the facts and evidence. It's pretty obvious to him. He's sitting there. He's like, I got bookshelves of binders full of criminal documents. But all of his superiors say, we don't care about any of that. Just leave them right there on the bookshelf. They're not going anywhere.
And as the special agent on this case, I thought the felony charges were well supported. When considering the elements of felony tax case, under the criminal code, there are two key considerations: willfulness and tax due and owing. In the criminal context, willfulness is defined as voluntary, intentional violation of a known legal duty. The tax during the 2020 time period, by Hunter Biden's own account, he was sober, newly married, and writing his memoir. Hunter Biden's accountants requested that he sign a representation letter stating that all the deductions were for business purposes. In early 2020, Hunter Biden's unfiled and delinquent tax returns were being prepared, which included his 2018 tax return.
So he continues on. Now, he gets into some of the details, and I will go and see what Byron Donalds digs into with him about Leslie Wolf, but very heroic testimony from Mr. Ziegler. He is there testifying against all of his, sounds like colleagues. He's got a good support network, but a lot of other people are coming down upon him with a lot of pressure, angry that he is speaking out, but he's not stopping. He's going to be showing up with CBS. Apparently they've got an exclusive interview coming out. Here's what he said there.
Did you uncover evidence that President Biden financially benefited from his son's deals?
Biden.
I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
Why is that?
Anytime we potentially wanted to go down the road of asking questions related to the president, that's going to take too much approvals. We can't ask those questions. And I mean, it created an environment that was very hard to deal with.
It's a politically sensitive case. Wouldn't it require additional approvals?
Yes, I do understand that aspect, but it would be like, well, let's think about it. Let's put that on the back burner.
It's not that important. We've got other things to worry about, and we'll get to it at some point. And so we're asking ourselves, who is the person who's making those decisions? Where is the choke point? Who is the final approval, the manager of the Hunter Biden investigation? Well, we know that we've got the IRS. These are investigative agents that are investigating tax crimes. We've got the FBI investigating other crimes, or let's say not investigating other crimes, but they're supposed to be investigating laptop crimes, gun crimes, drug crimes, prostitution crimes, all the other things that they didn't really look into with Hunter. But they are just going around and gathering up the evidence and determining whether they think there's enough probable cause to move this whole thing forward. But they've also got to turn it into a prosecutor, somebody at the DOJ, somebody who will ultimately review it and say, I'm a lawyer, you're not a lawyer. I know you're a special agent, whatever, but I got to take this case and present it in front of a grand jury, and I've got to sign with my law license that there is probable cause here and go make the arguments and stand behind it. So it goes to a choke point. There's somebody at the top of this whole chain that can cut it all off. Who is that person? We think it's Leslie Wolf at the DOJ. And Byron Donalds digs in on this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the witnesses, thank you for being here today. I want to get right to it because we have a lot to cover. Mr. Ziegler, you are the agent that opened up this investigation. From your transcript, page 17, what it says is that you were investigating a social media company, and through the process of that investigation, you found out that Hunter Biden was paying potentially for prostitutes in a potential prostitution ring. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You also say that in the beginning phases of that investigation, reviewing bank reports, that there was evidence that he was living lavishly through his corporate bank account. Is that correct? And when I say him, I mean Hunter Biden. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Question for you.
A lot of people on the left will say, well, this is irrelevant. This has nothing to do with anything. It's Hunter Biden just going around and, lounging with prostitutes, doing crack, the same types of crimes that Joe Biden, Hunty's daddy, the same types of crimes that he put tons of people in prison for as he drafted the crime bills of the 80s and 90s. Tons of people, including the black community, by the way, had all sorts of crack cocaine problems. Joe Biden said, no brakes on this, first offense, 5-year mandatory minimums, and so on and so forth. That is allowed to happen, and here is Donalds.
And also for Mr. Shapley, is it a clear line of potential investigation if somebody is charging up massive living expenses through a corporate account and not doing that through their own personal accounts and not accounting for that properly on their income tax returns? Is that the basis of a criminal investigation?
So all of Hunter's activities, all of that drug addict, prostitution activity was being funded through his law firm and through different entities, different shell companies. But those were, I hate to say the word, but the fruits of his labor, right? That's what he was indulging in. Other people might, invest in property or, start a family or build a business or do other things as they earn income from their legitimate activities. Hunter wasn't doing that at all. He was making money hand over fist. He was working for Burisma and he was on their board getting $80,000 a month for basically doing nothing, sending text messages, organizing different liaisons and doing deals. That's it. And that money was gained as a result of the influence of Hunter. Okay, this isn't, in other words, this is not Hunter who worked very difficult construction job, put in an honest day's work, went out and indulged in something that maybe some of us disagree with, right? One of those things. That's not this at all. What we see on the laptop is the byproduct of him selling out America, of the illegal quid pro quos. And so when we talk about the laptop, we talk about Hunter's criminality, it's just the symbol. It's the byproduct. It's the excrement of his criminality. And that criminality implicates Joe Biden. So who is impeding that process?
Generally speaking, that would definitely be factors that would spur a criminal investigation, yes.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. There was reference to the WhatsApp text message referring to, and everybody knows it now, hey, I'm sitting here with my dad, tell the chairman to give me my money because we remember and we're not going to forget because we're the Bidens and we have all these connections, yada, yada, yada. We all know that text message
My
now.
dad's sitting right here.
Mr. Ziegler, on page 105 of your testimony, page 105, gentlemen, you state, I know we wanted to get location data because I went to the prosecutors with this and they again came back at me with, well, how do we know that? He could just be lying and claiming that dad, Joe Biden now, that dad was there and dad was not there. Were you allowed to get location data dealing with the WhatsApp text message?
From my memory of it and from the notes that were taken, I never obtained location data regarding that message.
Did Miss Wolf, the AUSA in Delaware, did she say, "Oh wow, look at this text message. Let's figure out the location data and see where Hunter Biden was when he sent said message"? Was she excited about this as a prosecutor?
No.
So, when I asked her about the location data, in her response right here, it was her responding with, well, how do we know that? It wasn't, yeah, let's try and figure that out. It was like, well, how do we know that?
Are you sure?
Well, did she read the text message? Because if I read that text message as a prosecutor, I'm saying, wait a minute. Dad is sitting next to him, and dad happens to be the now president, then vice president of the United States.
You're like
Should we
jackpot.
find out where Hunter was when he sent said text message? I'm not a prosecutor, I'm a finance guy, but that just seems like common sense to me.
No, you
Yeah,
got
and I
it,
think
Byron.
with
You got
the
it.
previous email that was referenced, 10 held by H for the big guy.
That one.
Now that you have those two things kind of correlating with each other, as a normal process or procedure that we would go through, you would want to figure out, is that information truthful in that
Curious.
WhatsApp message?
I totally agree with you, Mr. Ziegler, which is why I think it is the view of members on this committee, and frankly, a lot of Americans at this point,
That's true.
that there are elements at the Department of Justice who did not want this information out, who did not want to go down the line of actually going through the evidence gathering process to see the depths to which this international pay-for-play scheme that was actually happening around Joe Biden, going through Hunter Biden, and all the money that the Biden family was incurring. That's not a question for you. That's just a statement from me. Last question. Through your investigation, how much money did you uncover was coming from Ukraine, Romania, and China?
Ukraine, Romania, and China.
If you hold on one second, let me reference the
Yeah, get those spreadsheets out, baby.
17.3 million.
Woo!
approximately.
Okay, so 17.3 million through your investigation. You and Mr.
That's a lot of
Shapely, you
super
are the
chats,
guys
man.
that investigate criminal tax evasion on an international scale. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, question for the chairman. Mr. Chairman, through the investigation of the Oversight Committee, about how much money have we seen come from Ukraine, Romania, and China?
Ukraine?
Over 10 million.
Okay, so we have two separate investigations.
Wow.
One done by the investigative branch of the IRS that is charged with doing these types of investigations. These are the people you want doing them. And an independent investigation by the Oversight Committee. And we're coming up with the same amount of money, give or take a couple million, going through the same person in Hunter Biden. And his investigation is slow walked. And we're supposed to sit here and think that Joe, I think for the record, Mr. Chairman, that the relevant committee needs to have questions for Leslie Wolf,
Yes.
the AUSA of Delaware,
Yes.
for David Weiss, the Attorney General of Delaware, for Lisa Monaco, who is the Deputy Attorney General, and for Merrick Garland himself, the Attorney General of the United States. Because if this action is allowed to occur and investigations are slow
Bring
walked
him in.
with this level of detail, this ain't Donald Trump, y'all. These are facts. I yield.
All right, so we got the litany. Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, number 2. We got David Weiss, the actual guy in charge of the Hunty investigation, and of course, Leslie Wolf, probably the hatchet woman, the one who actually goes out and does all of the dirty work, because David Weiss is a little bit in the crosshairs, and so all of it gets deviated out. And boy, $17 million from Ukraine and all of the other countries out there. Very interesting. Now Joe Biden's giving them billions. Very interesting relationship that's happening. But Mr. Joseph Ziegler revealed as the IRS Special Agent, known as Mr. X, blowing the whistle on the Biden crime family. We're very excited to hear more from him, to see what else he's got to say. This makes 2 now, 2 Biden crime family whistleblowers corroborating what each other has seen and heard. And of course, my friends, we're going to continue to cover this. Thank you for liking this video, and thank you for subscribing as we cover this. It's not going to stop. I think we're just getting started. There will be a lot more to follow. We look forward to seeing you as we do.